If you're thinking about visiting Cuba, stop everything you're doing and watch this until the end. Because there are things that happen there that no one tells you about. Things that seem small but can ruin your trip, put you at risk, or even land you in jail. Cuba is paradise until you drink the wrong water, get in the wrong taxi, or trust the wrong person. The island is beautiful. The people are warm. But there are rules, unspoken. Rules that, if you break, you could end up sick, arrested, or at the very least regretful. And before you say, "Oh, but it's the American embargo's fault," I invite you to spend a week there without toilet paper and then tell me about the bathroom revolution. Today, you will discover the 7 things you should never do in Cuba. One of them can literally cost you a lot, but a lot. 1. Don't drink the water. Have you ever heard the saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you fat"? Well, in Cuba, what doesn't make you fat probably gives you a bad stomach ache.
Oh, meu Deus! Tá queimando.
Let's start with the basics, water. Because you can play with your money, but with your stomach, my friend, you can't. Tap water in Cuba isn't just different. It's an adventure. Sometimes it's too chlorinated. Sometimes it's too little. Sometimes it's not at all. And when it is, it comes straight from tanks that haven't been maintained for days, accumulating everything your intestines hate the most. And look, the Cuban stomach is trained, you know? Forged in flour, in improvisation, in crises. Yours isn't. Yours is Nutella, created with Danonino and pH-balanced mineral water. You think you're strong until you face a revolutionary bacteria straight from Havana's plumbing. Drinking tap water in Cuba is like playing Russian roulette with your liver. So, no worries. Buy bottled water. Simple. Carry it in your backpack, in your room, in your heart. Are you going to pay a little more? Go ahead. But it's better to pay $2 for water than $200 for the doctor, because I'm going to tell you a little secret. In Cuba, healthcare is not free for tourists, my friend. And don't come with, "Oh, but I drank and didn't get sick." Great, you're lucky. Now remember this, good tourism is the kind that doesn't make you look for the bathroom every 15 minutes. Trust me, start with water, and you'll avoid the first hardship of your trip. 2. Beware of cheap food. Let's talk about food, which is one of the best parts of any trip, or at least it should be. In Cuba, you can find everything, from the typical dish with local charm to the famous typical dish with biological risk. And the worst part, the cheap food usually comes with a hint of drama. Yes, Cubans are creative in the kitchen, not by choice, but for survival. The basic diet? Flour, sugar, and fat. Lots of sugar, lots of fat, and an oil that, look, has lived more lives than a cat. There are places that reuse the oil until it asks for retirement. And the meats? They look beautiful, under the 38-degree sun without refrigeration, waiting for someone with courage or a stomach of steel. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you to only eat where Obama sat, because, let's face it, even Obama probably had a stomach ache afterwards. The truth is, there's a lot of good food in Cuba, but you need to know where to go, and most importantly, you need to know what your body can handle. Remember what I said about the Cuban stomach? They are born trained in hard mode, almost to the level of India, but let's face it, no one beats the Indians, right? Now, what about your stomach? Oh, my friend, yours is still in tutorial mode. Tourists who eat anything on the street thinking it's local end up hugging the toilet. So don't be that tourist. Pay a little more. Eat at places with a good reputation, whether it's a paladar, a family home, or even the restaurant of your host who cooks better than a famous chef. Food that's too cheap in Cuba ends up costing you a lot later. And the only exotic flavor you'll remember is heartburn. 3. A good cigar doesn't come from the street. You've arrived in Cuba, walked the streets of Havana, and here it comes. The first friendly Cuban with a big smile and a tempting offer. Friend, a genuine Cohiba cigar, $80. today only. And then you think, wow, but in the store it costs $300. This guy is giving me a revolutionary gift. Wrong, my Che Guevara, wrong. In Cuba, the parallel trade is as creative as the slogans of the revolution. You can find a premium cigar with a seal, box, certificate, and even a picture of Fidel smiling. But, if you're lucky, the inside will be stuffed with dried banana leaves wrapped in recycled cardboard. Of course, there are people who buy and love them, because there really are good cigars sold outside the stores, especially in Vinales, where the tobacco is produced directly from the source. But here's the difference. In Vinales, the scam is artisanal. In downtown Havana, it's an export of disappointment. And before you say, oh, but I know how to recognize a real cigar, let me tell you, brother, even Cubans fall for scams in Cuba. Want to buy cheap? Buy directly from the producer, even without a stamp. Want to take home safely? Follow the law. Up to 20 cigars without a box, from 25 to 50 with a box, and more than that, only with a receipt and a strong prayer. And most importantly, did you buy it on the street and fall for the scam? Who are you going to complain to? To the hot Havana wind? The scam is there, and only those who want to fall for the scam will fall for it. 4. Don't provoke the police. You know that habit that every tourist has of taking pictures of everything? The lamppost, the plate of food, the old lady selling flowers, and of course the police on the corner with an unfriendly look on their face. That's right. In Cuba, this can get you much more than a like on Instagram. Here's a tip worth its weight in gold. Avoid any unnecessary interaction with the Cuban police, including visual ones. They don't like to be photographed, or filmed, or observed for more than 5 seconds with a curious gringo face. And the reason? Simple. In Cuba, there is no separation of powers. The police are part of the state. The prosecutor is part of the state. The judge is part of the state. And your lawyer? Guess what? He is also part of the state. In other words, if you get into trouble, the trial will be like a World Cup finals game, except with the referee playing for the opposing team. And before anyone says, oh, but I have a European passport, let me tell you a little secret. This only makes you an easier target to be exploited. You may even be able to get away with it, but not without paying a lot, wasting time, and leaving with a diplomatic trauma. There are tourists who get into fights at bars, argue with police officers in the middle of the street, or decide to demand their rights. Brother, you're not in Sweden. You're in Cuba! And what is considered a right in other places, here can become a flagrant offense, detention, and a free lesson on authoritarianism. Want to enjoy Cuba in peace? Then here's a golden tip. Don't argue, don't film, and don't test your limits with the police. If the police officer looks at you, smile. Say a friendly buenas tardes and keep walking. You're not there to become a martyr for democracy. You're there to drink rum and watch the sunset in Havana, remember? And speaking of which, if there's anyone you can truly trust in Cuba, it's your host. That person wants you to come home in one piece, smiling, and, preferably, without an international criminal record. Oh, and if you have that friend who wears a Che t-shirt, dreams of revolution, and thinks Cuba is a socialist paradise, do him a favor, send him this video. I want to see him protest there and come out alive to tell the tale. 5. Avoid illegal taxis. You know those classic Cuban cars? The ones that look like they came straight out of a 1950s movie? Yes, beautiful, nostalgic, photogenic, but they are also a romantic trap on 4 wheels. The scene is common. You, an adventurous tourist, want to save money. You get into an unofficial taxi with a friendly driver and a stylish car without asking too much where you are going. The result? You leave the city and enter a suspense movie. Are you exaggerating? Not really. Cuba is indeed one of the safest countries in the world, within the cities. But on interprovincial trips, where the grass is tall and the Wi-Fi is a myth, there have been robberies, disappearances, and mishaps that end with foreigners crying at the consulate. And do you know what's worse? These illegal taxis are cheaper, and that's where the danger lies, because you think, it's only $5 less, saving is saving. But let's be real. Saving $5 on a taxi in Cuba is like buying a parachute on AliExpress. It might work, but if it doesn't, it's over. Want to travel between cities? Do it the right way. Ask your host to arrange a reliable taxi, the one that has already taken half of the Airbnb tourists alive and without a police report. Or use state taxis, which can be uglier, more bureaucratic, but also safer, because what you want is a trip between provinces, not an international disappearance. 6. Don't exchange money on the street. Let's talk about money, the fuel of every trip, and the reason why many tourists return with financial trauma. In Cuba, the monetary system seems like a reality show prank. You have two currencies circulating at the same time, the Cuban peso and the so-called MLC, which is the digital foreign money recharged on the card. It's as if money had a dual personality, and neither of them liked you. Now, pay attention to this detail. On the black market, the dollar is worth more than 150 pesos. But if you're a fool and pay at a government restaurant, they'll give you change as if the dollar were worth 24. Yes, 24. It's the famous, "Thanks for coming, now accept your loss with dignity." Then comes the dilemma of the smart tourist. I'll exchange money with a Cuban on the street because it's better there. And that's when the script turns into a tragedy. Are there any good people? Yes, but there are also many crooks ready to scam tourists who look like they just fell off a plane. You give $100 thinking you'll get 15,000 pesos back. And what you get back is a wad of paper that looks like it was printed in the back of a bakery. And who are you going to complain to? To the old man who's already disappeared in the crowd? To your card that doesn't even work properly in Cuba? The best way out? Talk to your host. They probably know someone you can trust who can exchange money well and won't disappear with your money. And if you want to avoid the hassle, exchange it with the government itself. You'll get less, but at least you won't end up looking like you were robbed. 7. Don't do drugs. Look, I shouldn't even need to say this, but some people need to hear it. Drugs in Cuba? Forget it. Erase that idea from your head. Block it. There are tourists who arrive on the island thinking they're going to have a roots, revolutionary, underground experience, and then start flirting with some weird substances offered by a strange guy in an even stranger alley. Bad idea. Bad. In Cuba, it's simple. Drugs are prohibited, period. And when I say prohibited, I don't mean prohibited, but nobody cares. It's forbidden, and if they catch you, you'll discover the true meaning of repentance. Yes, there is a prison for foreigners. And no, it's not that prison with colorful cells, sunbathing, and a Netflix-style lawyer. It's a Cuban prison, where you don't understand anything they say, there are no cell phones in the cell like in your country, and the only thing that comes quickly is repentance. Oh, and remember that nice part about human rights and fair defense? Well, forget it too. In Cuba, the judge is from the state, the prosecutor is from the state, and your lawyer is also from the state. Long live the state! In other words, the game starts with the odds against you 3-0. You're going to pay dearly to defend yourself from a crime that you decided to commit thinking that everything was fine. To sum it up, if you want to have an intense experience in Cuba, go salsa dancing. If you want to mingle with the locals, go to a bar, drink some cheap rum and chat. Now, stick your nose where it doesn't belong? You'll end up with a great photo in the Interpol album. So, do you still want to visit Cuba? Or are you already a little scared? Haha. Joking aside, the island is incredible, as long as you go prepared and don't act like a reckless tourist. Well, if you've made it this far, congratulations! You survived a virtual tour of Cuba without being arrested, without going hungry, without having diarrhea, and without losing money. So comment Cuba just so I know who the strong ones are. Oh, and don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and send this video to your communist friend. Check out the video that's showing on the screen. Thanks and see you later.